He didn't start out a superstar, but Leslie Cheung certainly became one.
He got cast, you know, he got a sort of, I think he got some blue blood. He know how to dress.
For 3 decades, starting in the 1970s, Cheung left his mark on the Hong Kong entertainment scene, acting on TV programs, starring in movies, recording hit records, selling out live concerts.
佢基本上喺個電視，跟住去電影，跟住去佢嘅唱片事業就由錄黑膠唱片到cassette 帶，到去紅館。
Along the way, Gogor, or elder brother as he was known, created an enormous fan base throughout the Chinese world.
I think that there's an indefinable charisma that one performer can have in a generation. Leslie Cheung definitely was that one charismatic figure.
But behind the charisma lurked a secret depression.
我自己唔一定好同意話佢自殺經過設計嘅，因為佢嗰日約咗人嘅。咁一個人約咗人，又去諗係自殺，咁樣去設計好奇怪。
Overnight, one of Hong Kong's biggest stars had stopped shining. But in the hearts of his fans, he lives forever. April 1st, 2003, the news shocked Hong Kong. Leslie Cheung commits suicide, jumping from the 24th floor of the Mandarin Hotel in the city's central business district.
I remember where I was when I heard that Leslie Cheung had passed away. We were shooting a movie at the time. And this amazing news. And I called up Ekin Cheng to see if it was true. And he said it must be because he would make such an awful joke about Gogor.
Fans, friends, colleagues, the entire entertainment industry is stunned. How could someone so universally popular, with such enormous success in both music and films, take his own life?
He's rich enough, you know, he's very rich, handsome enough, good life. He knows how to enjoy life. I guess.
佢嘅死嘅方法咧係好傳奇性、好突擊。比起發生嘅意外唔同咧，意外都係突擊嘅，但係意外始終我哋覺得係我哋意料以外嘅都會成日發生嘅事咯。但係冇諗過一個即係話仲係喺佢成年啦，仲係做喺佢個事業嘅高峰啦，開始要去做發展另一個可能性去做導演啦，冇任何跡象顯示佢會走呢條路嘅人嘅時候，咁佢就咁樣去做。
The path that led Leslie Cheung to his tragic end began in Hong Kong in the 1950s. Cheung was born on September 12, 1956, the youngest of 10 children.
Yes, his father is a very famous tailor, Cheung. His sister married a British.
佢屋企環境比較複雜，家庭關係比較複雜，但係出身世家，佢屋企爸爸好有錢。
But despite his comfortable life, there was unhappiness in the background. His parents divorced when he was quite young, and later he was sent to boarding school in England. The environment of the English countryside was very different to the crowded streets of Hong Kong, and young Frankie Bobby
呢一種唔開心嘅童年生活啦，或者好孤獨啦，諗去咗外國要面對種族歧視啦，又或者喺家庭嗰個嘅人際關係唔和諧啦。但係呢一種生活經驗，如果喺個人生活當然唔係愉快嘅記憶，但係偏偏喺演藝上咧，就係佢一啲好重要嘅資本嚟嘅。我成日都覺得咧，一個偉大嘅演藝者咧，都係喺一個悲劇環境磨練出嚟嘅。
Around this time, he also decided to change his English name. Frankie Bobby became Leslie, after the movie star Leslie Howard. It was a glamorous choice, if a bit androgynous. Unhappy at school, Leslie regularly made a 100-mile trip to spend weekends with relatives at the seaside, where they had a restaurant. During this time, he also found a new passion. He began singing in front of audiences at the restaurant. By all accounts, his performances were quite well received. His musical development was starting to take shape. While in the UK, he was also exposed to Western music, which would later feature in his career. He was planning to attend university to study textile management, but his father fell ill and he returned to Hong Kong. His studies interrupted, in 1977, Leslie entered the Asian Amateur Song Contest, describing himself as a fashion model, but unfortunately he didn't win a prize.
He sing very good, dance a little bit. He sang the song called American Pie. So we're always looking for young and talented people at that time. So he's in, and he performed very well.
Producer Michael Lai was head of the Asian Music Contest that year, and young Leslie's performance caught his eye.
We think it's good, so we signed him up in RTV, and then he also can act. So we put it in some drama series, and also he sings the theme song.
In the Hong Kong entertainment world of the 70s and 80s, multitasking was a requirement, and the young Leslie seemed to excel in everything. His early roles in television drama series introduced him to audiences in Hong Kong and the rest of Asia. But meanwhile, his recording career was slow to take off. His first two albums were not huge hits, and at one performance, he was actually booed.
He come up with one record, it's not that popular. His voice is not that. His voice is very sharp at that time.
But then he began collaborating with producer Michael Lai again, the man who originally spotted him at the talent competition.
Collaboration, yes, must be with the producer. Because producer is just like a director, you know. We choose all the song, let him listen, and then we have a meeting, and then we record about 14 or 15 songs for one record. I lower his key, just like Elvis Presley. We try one song called Are You Lonesome Tonight? We write it into Cantonese, and then he sings the song like Elvis with a lot of notes. The sound come out with more bass. So it's all right.
Lai would go on to produce 10 more records with Leslie, but the first record they worked on came out in 1983, The Wind Blows On. It was a huge success, and that success kick-started his musical career, as did his new manager, Chan Chuk-fan.
佢不嬲都係一個好有自信嘅 artist 嚟嘅嚇，就算嗰陣時可能個時間係唔係好得意啦，咁佢都即係佢都冇諗過要放棄做呢行，佢都係諗住尋求一啲新嘅公司或者一啲新嘅嘢去俾佢自己可以即係再繼續喺呢個圈度發展。
Leslie's unique talent was also shaped by his experiences in the UK, which made him unusual for a Hong Kong performer.
He comes into the industry educated in England. He's at that time a huge fan of Western singers and Western music, and yet he comes into what was on the cusp of going from a Mandarin language industry to a Cantonese language industry, the music industry. And he brings to that some of I think the feeling of an international star, even though he's singing in a Cantonese language.
Leslie's career was beginning just as the biggest movement in Hong Kong's music scene was developing, cantopop. For many, it was the beginning of a golden age of entertainment.
80年代香港男文化嘅黃金歲月，咁男音樂啦、電影啦都係最頂峰嘅時期啦，有好嘅歌手啦、好嘅導演啦、劇本啦，佢碰啱一個咁鼎盛嘅盛世，乘時而起啦。
And that meant more than just becoming popular in Hong Kong. It meant audiences all over Asia, and in particular, in Chinese communities overseas.
Hong Kong is the pop culture is developed to all over the world, like Chinatown in London, like Chinatown in San Francisco, whatever. So the Hong Kong popular singer and the Hong Kong popular actor will be also popular everywhere with Chinese crowd.
But even with Leslie's growing popularity, there was unhappiness hiding in the background. Unhappiness and more. Leslie Cheung, born in Hong Kong in the 50s to a wealthy but troubled family. Sent overseas to boarding school in the UK, he later returned to Hong Kong without completing his studies. Back in the British colony, he entered a local singing competition, and while he didn't win the contest, he did earn a TV acting contract and a record deal. At first, success eluded him, but in 1984, he released his first top 10 hit song, Monica. And after that, there was no looking back.
Monica 有幾紅啊 ？Monica 嗰陣時令到佢個唱片銷量當其時即係賣到成40萬張嚇，好犀利嚇。
His native talent and good looks were big factors in his success, but it also took a lot of work.
He got class, you know. He got some blue blood. He know how to dress. At that time, it's not like nowadays. You know, you just sing a song and then you got popular. You have to be good, very good, and then you can record a record or you record a theme song.
唔能夠話佢係石頭爆出嚟嘅，平地一聲咁就起咗個人啦。佢生得官仔骨骨，咁同當時嘅一啲其他嘅男歌手比較咧，佢會有一種特質係其他人冇嘅。咁呢個係個人嗰個先天嘅條件。
At the same time his music career was taking off, the world of Hong Kong cinema was also taking notice.
Look at Leslie Cheung. You know, there is a guy who looked like a matinee idol. He looked like a movie star should look. And that's not to be discounted. So, I mean, he had that about him. He had the movie star. In his young days, was a gorgeous-looking man, and he had movie star appeal.
Director Clifton Coe was the screenwriter for 1982's Teenage Dreamers, Leslie's first leading role in a movie.
我甚至覺得佢嘅成功，即係佢嘅走紅係指日可待。雖然我往後聽到個古仔就係佢出嚟唱歌俾人 hear 啦，咁但係呢個唔重要啦。我覺得佢係即係睇個機會幾時嚟。
In the early 80s, most of Leslie's opportunity in the film industry were for movies aimed at teenagers. But by 1986, Leslie was cast in director John Woo's classic film, A Better Tomorrow. For the producers, he was the only choice.
英雄本色入邊個細佬個戲係好緊要。咁當時我哋諗，如果係揾呢一個演員嘅話，佢理所當然第一個諗法就係 Leslie， 冇其他人。
Again, Leslie's unique qualities made the difference.
唔知有冇人提過佢同 James Dean 其實有啲相似嘅眼神嘅，呢種眼神其實係對普通人係有咗威脅性，但係你對佢熟悉之後咧，你感覺嗰種係一種好特殊嘅一種魅力嚟。
Audiences, directors, and critics responded to that charisma, even when his roles called for quite different characters.
張國榮嘅做戲嘅活係時裝、古裝、喜劇、悲劇，正派、反派，完全得。即係咁樣嘅演員，你會好 appreciate。佢個人係敏感，好敏感，好 sensitive，好仔細嘅啲嘢。即係冚唪唥嘅高得，即係去到好 detail。作為一個 artist，要求自己好高，要求別人、要求側邊嘅嘢都好高。我就覺得佢係係真真正正一個 artist。我可以咁樣講，佢係真真正正一個 artist。即係佢啲嘢好感性。
And in addition to his natural talent and charisma, industry insiders also appreciated his work ethic.
我諗哥哥就有一個70、80年代演化落嚟嘅一種特質，佢基本上喺個電視，跟住去電影，跟住去佢嘅唱片事業就由錄黑膠唱片到 cassette 帶，到去紅館，佢係由個基礎上嚟嘅，因此佢好多嘢佢都挑通眼眉，好熟，佢好知道啲嘢係點運作。然後佢就喺裏邊提升，無論喺演技上提升，喺佢個參與性、參與度嗰度提升，或者喺佢唱歌技巧提升，或者佢由載歌載舞喺佢嘅跳舞啊、形體啊方面又係提升。佢係有個好實在嘅一個基礎，然後慢慢捱出嚟，捱上去，到變成一個 superstar。即係佢哋係好有呢一種咁嘅體驗。
Despite all the glamour that goes along with superstardom, day-to-day life in Hong Kong's entertainment industry was distinctly unglamorous. During that era, Hong Kong had the world's third biggest film industry, after Bollywood and Hollywood. As many as 200 new movies were released each year, and Hong Kong studios could churn out a new film from start to finish in just 3 months.
根 本就有入廠冇出廠。嗰啲叫拉閘放狗。咩叫拉閘放狗啊？入廠綁唔拉閘，拍啦。日頭外景，晚黑廠景；日頭外景，晚黑廠景，直至到冧廠。咩叫冧廠咧？個演員休克啦。個演員你唔放佢翻去幾個鐘，佢根本已經冧咗、暈咗啦。叫做冧廠，咁先會停廠或者停 crew 唔出外景，然後先可以俾你翻去瞓幾粒鐘。
It was under these sweatshop-like circumstances that Leslie was given the nickname Gogor by his fellow actors.
Gogo is his brother, you know, that means big brother, you know, but more intimate nickname, Gogo. Everybody loves him because he's quite talented, you know. He's not that big nose, not that proud, you know, so when he works with he coordinate with all the cameraman or lighting man or sound man, whatever. He's not that big, you know. But at that time, because he had passed so many years, so he knows the hard work, the hardship.
因為可能佢係電視台出身，佢真正係拍電視劇出身，即係有起咩事佢出手擔擔抬抬佢都會喐手，佢唔會當自己係高高在上，佢同大家一齊咁捧住飯盒一齊咁食。即係對啲手足佢真係當係手足嘅，有啲唔係㗎，有啲巨星使死人㗎咁嘅，即係我未見過喺佢身上係有咁樣嘅情況。佢真係大家一齊食飯盒，佢一齊食飯盒。大家踎喺路邊，佢係踎喺路邊，即係佢唔係當自己係 superstar 咁高高在上。
But it wasn't just within the industry. Leslie's nickname Gogor caught on with audiences too.
There are people who you revere when you go to worship in a theatre and a cinema, whereas there are people who you feel that you know as you know a neighbour, you know. And I think Leslie had that. He felt like people of Hong Kong felt that he was an elder brother of the extended show business family, and by extension, the family of Hong Kong.
And if Hong Kong was his family loved him. He was nominated for several Chinese film awards and gained critical recognition throughout the rest of the region. Meanwhile, the cantopop music style that Leslie pioneered with Monica back in 1984 was dominating the music charts, and so was Gogor. Throughout the latter half of the 1980s, Leslie released 2 to 3 albums a year, and it seemed like whenever he wasn't in a recording studio or on a film set, he was on a concert tour.
He got so many experience, you know, he got hundreds of concerts, you know. We went to Korea for a concert, we went to China, we went to Guangzhou or whatever. We've been a lot of places, you know, Malaysia and then around the world too.
The experience gained by all this travel began to show in Leslie's performances, and his style began to adapt under many different international influences.
He picked up so many things and then he dissolved it and then he performed with another way. So some of the audience, they don't know English song, you know, they just listen to cantopop and then they will say, wow, what is it? Wow, it's so surprising, you know.
But there were more surprises to come. In 1989, after finishing a world tour and at the peak of his success, Leslie announced he was retiring from the music business.
88年開始呢個世界巡迴，最後一站翻香港。佢嗰陣時佢已經喺個 tour 一路都開始同我講話，我真係覺得壓力好大，我想過有自己嘅生活，我唔想再做。
At the age of 33, he decided to go out with one last set of concerts, 33 of them in fact, one after another, at the Hong Kong Coliseum. At first, there was widespread skepticism that Leslie would actually go through with his plans to quit the music scene. But then in 1990, he left Hong Kong and emigrated to Canada, seemingly for good. At the peak of his music career in 1990, cantopop superstar Leslie Cheung announced his retirement and emigrated from Hong Kong to Canada. He had won more than a dozen music industry awards since his first hit single, Monica, broke in 1984. His 33-night farewell concert series, one show for each year of his life, packed in sellout crowds. And when it was over, he left for Vancouver. And although he took Canadian citizenship in 1992, industry insiders didn't believe Leslie would be gone for good.
Canada is doing nothing, you know, nobody knows him. I told him before, I said, you will come back for sure, 100%. Because when you are an artist in show business, you always love show business. you like to perform.
In fact, Leslie did come back, but to make movies, not to record music. In the early 90s, while he was officially living in Canada, he also made several more films, including Wong Kar-wai's Days of Being Wild, which won him his first Best Actor prize at the Hong Kong Film Awards. The role was not at all the sort of typical Leslie Cheung romantic lead.
當佢演一啲心理層次比較複雜嘅、出身環境比較顛覆嘅，又或者係要面對一啲好難處理嘅人際嘅感情，咁呢啲都要一啲心理或者喺表情上比較細膩嘅表現咧，佢就會做到，因為佢本身細個都已經早要面對唔係咁順暢嘅環境咯。
And while Leslie drew on his troubled past to find the characters he played, he also went deeper into his roles than many actors.
我覺得作為一個藝術工作者，佢對藝術嘅追求嗰種帶戲翻屋企，帶住個角色翻屋企，帶住個角色個情緒翻屋企去鑽研角色，嗰種投入係我冇辦法喺其他嘅藝人身上揾到，我見唔到，我未見過，冇見過個演員會係帶埋個 character 翻屋企嘅，我冇。通常一收工，擰轉變，抹妝都抹唔切啦，跟住去 fever 㗎啦，佢唔係，即係佢喺拍嗰個戲嗰個角色嘅嗰一輪。嗰個期間，佢仲係好投入，百分百投入喺個角色度，呢樣嘢好難得。
In 1992, Leslie devoted himself to a role that would change his image even more in the critically acclaimed international box office hit Farewell My Concubine. Directed by China's Chun Kai-ge, this was the first Chinese film to win a Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. Leslie had been approached by another director years earlier for one of the lead characters, Cheung BIO, a Peking opera performer who plays female roles. But at the time, he turned it down. The character's sexual ambiguity was just too much.
咁張榮當時佢自己，包括佢身邊嘅經理人啊，或者所有公司嘅人啦、決策嘅高層咧，都唔贊成佢接呢個程蝶衣嘅角色，因為影響佢個偶像嘅形象，或者一個所謂販賣異性戀嘅白馬王子嘅形態。咁佢當時亦都唔夠膽接嘅。
But when the opportunity came up again, a decade later, he worked hard to get the part.
咁前後兩段嘅心態表現咧，都睇到佢對於自己嗰個性向咧係已經開放咗好多，亦唔介意去面對嗰個社會點樣去睇佢呢個嘅選擇咯。
At around the same time, he appeared in a number of films playing openly gay characters, and rumors about Leslie's own off-screen sex life began to spread in the tabloids.
咁傳媒就最中意攞住呢一種咧作為一種噱頭嘅，咁又可以做新聞。佢哋可能第一步諗唔係話一定要攻擊呢個藝人，而係覺得呢個新聞或者呢張相有賣點，我可以增加銷路，咁加啲 caption 做啲煽動性嘅説話，咁就可以大賣。
Homosexuality was only decriminalized in Hong Kong in 1991 after years of legislative toing and froing, and society at large still struggled to accept gay lifestyles.
發生喺90年代咧，都係早咗，都係前衞咗嘅。即係我相信，如果佢再遲10年，譬如話斷背山個電影都出埋啦，你喺近呢3-5年間，就人哋即係香港普遍會接受係多過當時。喺90年代中的而且確會有啲人接受唔嚟，即係一路嘅張國榮同埋去到嗰個時候嘅張國榮，會有啲人會即係雖然好真係自我，但係喺公眾嘅接受嚟講，係佢呢個 announcement 係出得早咗啲。
But regardless of the tabloid rumors, his film career continued to flourish in defiance of typecasting.
In Hong Kong, he was the nearest a gay man could get to being out. And everybody knew, it was an open secret in the industry, most of society, that he was gay. And yet, he could play straight roles effortlessly. He sometimes played maybe sexually ambiguous characters in the films, but normally he was playing very heterosexual action roles, as he does in films like A Better Tomorrow. In most of his romantic comedies, he's obviously playing it very straight. In general, we're just playing the straight romantic lead completely believably.
Audiences responded to Leslie on screen quite well, regardless of what role. 13 of his films in the 90s were in the annual top 10 lists for highest grossing box office receipts. And despite his retirement from music, he continued to work as a composer for movies, winning awards and nominations for his theme songs and film compositions. That success spurred the tabloids and the paparazzi even more.
Hong Kong is a very small place, and despite the fact that, there's only, you would think, a finite number of stories to be told in the naked city, obviously the publishers of all these gossip magazines and newspapers don't believe that. Because even though it's such a small place, such a small industry, every day these big colour sections of gossipy stories, and definitely there were plenty on Leslie Cheung.
我諗有一代嘅藝人對於喺香港90年代中出現嘅呢個狗仔隊文化係未適應到嘅，係佢哋未曾豁達地去接受到呢樣嘢嘅。佢哋好上心，好每一句寫出嚟，無論係亂咁作、三安白做嘅，佢哋都有上心。佢哋都真係好認真去剔，可能係過分認真。我諗做藝人去到呢一度就一定係睇你點樣去過呢一關，即係一定係唔開心。即係我覺得香港嘅狗仔隊對於 artist 嘅騷擾已經，我覺得我戥啲 artist 慘。
Audiences were also sympathetic to Leslie, especially when in 1995 he signed a new recording contract, releasing his first album in 5 years, a collection of his film songs. Another album of new music followed, and in 1997 he went on tour again. His retirement was over. Leslie was back, and audiences went wild.
I think to be a star, to be a superstar of stage and song or screen, there's something in you missing, some part of you that's unfulfilled, and the love of the audience, the attention of the audience fills that in you.
His comeback tour lasted for 7 months, 55 concerts, including dates in Japan and China. Success followed success. His next few albums were among his most popular, even as he was changing his sound and style.
Having reached a level of success, he then looked at ways in which he could redefine his own character through the parts he played and through the songs he sang. And I think that the challenge of any relevant artist is how to continually reinvent yourself while not straying too far from your core audience. Because in the end, it is show business, and no business is no show. And I think Leslie was very smart at doing that. He knew how far to take his persona, that the audience would follow with him. And he also knew that there's a point you couldn't go beyond.
And Leslie was pushing that boundary. In the closing number for his '97 world tour, he wore red high heels and danced a tango with a macho male dancer. Some fans were scandalized, others were delighted, but everyone paid attention. Leslie Cheung made his return to the music scene in 1995 after 5 years of retirement. The tabloids had been filled with stories questioning his sexuality after a series of movie roles in which he played gay characters. And while he never explicitly came out as gay, in 1997 he tantalized concert audiences by wearing high heels and dancing with a man on stage.
With Leslie in Hong Kong, it was like, okay, here's a guy, an incredibly charismatic and talented singer and actor and performer and beloved star. Okay, we kind of know he's gay. But it's not flaunted. He never comes out in public and does a big staunch thing for gay rights. It's just known. But because he's so talented, it doesn't matter.
And if Leslie was pushing the limits before, in 2000 he pushed even further, launching his biggest and most controversial concert series, entitled Passion. He commissioned top international fashion designer Jean-Paul Gaultier to design his costumes, an ultra-modern look that took things over the top. For the finishing touch, he wore a long wig, completely changing his appearance.
He changed his image is because at the last show, he's that popular. He wanted to do Jean-Paul Gaultier to be the costume designer, and then whatever, he wanted to be long hair, he wanted to wear heels, Because he's becoming bigger and bigger, too big. He wanted to do something that people would never do.
And at first, Leslie's series of concerts was savaged by Hong Kong critics.
佢好似 Passion Tour 演唱會咧，香港演嘅時候咧，真係鬧得好緊要。但喺海外嘅評價好高嘅時候，甚至麥當娜咧都非常之激烈讚賞嘅時候咧，佢哋又會轉態，好欣賞讚嘅喎，將兩個時期嘅報紙拼埋一齊咧，你會睇到香港媒介嗰種精神分裂狀況。
The Passion concert was a challenging change of image from a star who started out as the handsome boy next door.
yeah, he want to do something new. But I don't like the shows, you know. I don't like it. It should be like, wow, very classy shows, you know, sing a few good songs, you know. Okay, you can dance a little bit, but one part of a few songs, you can act like this, you know, but the other parts is, but the whole show is I don't like the shows.
But others saw passion as an expression of an artist who was very much in touch with Hong Kong and his audience.
我諗我哋嘅文化藝術未必有好深厚嘅根，我哋有西方嘅嘢，有中國嘅嘢，有兩者嘅 combine 同埋撞擊，但係我哋亦都有多一樣嘢，就係我哋對前衞大膽嘅嘢，從來都係會欣賞同埋會接受，因為我哋有呢個條件。
But I think there are people who, by sheer force of presence in the scene, are undeniable as stars. No perceived flaw in them can stop them, and society as a whole finds them irresistible. And he was definitely irresistible.
But the criticism stung. Gaultier was reportedly so insulted by the initial critical reviews of his costumes that he vowed never to design for another Asian performer. And despite the tour's ultimate success, Leslie himself took the early harsh reviews rather personally.
如果係一個，因為演藝界，即使我哋當佢係娛樂圈又好，你當佢係真係一個藝術嘅環境嘅表演都好啦，但係同演藝有關咧嘅人咧，做得好，通常性格好敏感嘅。咁性情好敏感嘅人就係對側邊嘅人啦、人講嘅説話啦、發生嘅事情啦、輿論啦，或者啲嘅反應咧，都會極度神經質嘅個反應，一定係咁。
This sensitivity was very much in evidence to those who knew him.
我諗任何喺呢個圈裏邊好 top， 曾經好 top， 而有個人有相當嘅敏感，而又唔係好多朋友可以令到佢好豁達、好欣然咁接受一個現實。咁你見到一個記者招待會或者一個 event， 佢到咗場，啲記者幾個埋嚟問幾句，咁佢好 official 答咗啲嘢，啲記者。一見到個 lift 口一打開，有冇人嚟？譬如郭富城咁先算啦嚇，一紮10幾20個湧咗個郭富城嗰邊。咁你留翻個畫面喺張國榮嗰度啦，因為我見過呢個畫面，我見過。咁你會覺得佢有少少失落，同埋係有少少唔開心。即係呢個係我眼見嘅。
One thing is, I really don't know what he's thinking inside. He never talked to people, you know, not. You know, sometimes just, I'm not happy, or why you're not happy. I don't know why I'm not happy.
But for the most part, Leslie kept his troubled emotions to himself.
喺同我合作過程，我唔特別覺得佢係一個唔開心嘅人咯。我覺得佢其實係一個好敏感嘅人。可能因為我哋拍親都係喜劇，我成日都喺片場度見到佢好開心嘅一面。
However, Leslie's deeper emotional state seemed unsettled. His film work continued, but friends and family later told reporters of periods of depression and an earlier suicide attempt in 2002.
With somebody that kind of depression, there's a paper-thin line between do or don't, and they're walking that every day. If they're lucky, they're in an environment where the people around them can talk about this kind of thing, can observe this kind of thing, and can create some kind of support group that keeps them on the right side of that line.
Tragically, Leslie Cheung finally crossed that line. On April 1st, 2003, he went to the gym at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in Hong Kong's Central Business District. After his workout, he made a few phone calls, then borrowed some paper to write a note. Then, he jumped from the 24th floor balcony to his death.
因為你知香港好多人都揀跳樓嘅，跳樓係冇得翻轉頭。當你跳咗落去，你跳落海你仲可以求救，食安眠藥仲可以打電話，但係跳樓嗰下冇嘅。
At the time, friends, family, and associates were shocked by the news.
In my home, and people call me, and then was this true? Because 2 weeks ago I just talked to him on the phone. So it's very sudden that, very sudden, you know. It's a shock. But when it passed, nobody want to talk about why or whatever, you know. Nobody want to talk about it. So I refuse a lot of interview from the press, and then I don't say a word because I feel very sad.
Fans began a vigil outside the hotel. The entertainment world was stunned, and the tabloid speculation was rampant. Was he having problems in his love life? Was he worried about getting older? Was he hurt by critical reviews?
咁我覺得係剎那之間嘅。咁因為佢好似係之前之後係有其他事要辦，同埋約咗人喺嗰個地方見，佢唔係自己一個人偷偷地走去嗰個地方去做呢個舉動。咁我覺得係佢受抑鬱症影響喺剎那之間嗰個意識咧係做咗呢一件事。
And it was a moment that changed people's lives. Film star and pop idol Leslie Cheung committed suicide on April 1st, 2003, at the age of 46. He had been to the gym at the top floor of the Mandarin Oriental Hotel and suddenly leapt from the balcony. When the news came out, fans began a vigil outside the hotel.
I went down to the Mandarin, you know, the next night when they had the gathering, and it was really touching. Hong Kong people are very, you know, quite slow to come out and express emotion. They're getting maybe better at it, but they weren't at that time. So it was really quite striking to see the depth of feeling for Leslie Cheung, and I think he did people a tremendous service in allowing them to grieve and allowing them to come to terms with their own feelings, perhaps in a way they might not for an immediate family member.
And all across Hong Kong, people were shocked.
好突擊，比起發生嘅意外唔同咧，意外都係突擊嘅，但係意外始終我哋覺得係我哋意料以外嘅都會成日發生嘅事咯。但係冇諗過一個即係點講啊？仲係喺佢成年啦，仲係做喺佢個事業嘅高峰啦，開始要去做發展另一個可能性去做導演啦，冇任何跡象顯示佢會走呢條路嘅人嘅時候，咁佢就咁樣去做。呢個 action take 得太突然咯，嗰個 impact 好重啊，所以變咗好長時間咧都會留喺度。
Friends and family went into mourning.
He's so young, he's about 40-something, you know, at that time. He still can sing. So people got so many rumors. I went to the funeral just to say, very sad. Especially his family, you know, his sister, his friends. I don't want to talk about it.
The funeral had a huge turnout. Family and loved ones, industry colleagues, and fans. Leslie's suicide came at a time when Hong Kong was already in the midst of crisis. The city was in the grip of the SARS epidemic. Newspapers were full of worrying stories about possible infections. People were wearing masks, and the mood was already fragile. As a result, for many, Leslie's suicide took on even greater significance.
佢已經唔係單純一個個體獨立存在，而係連繫咗個歷史咯。如果單純佢喺平常日子自殺，又或者沙士發生完啦，可能冇咁緊要，冇咁激烈咯。就你見到又係天時地利人和之間撞擊而成一個冇辦法解釋，好似謎一樣嘅傳奇，令到啲人會有一種着迷，每年都會紀念咯。
Fans gather annually on April 1st to mark his death, and again in September to celebrate his birthday.
有啲朋友就中意佢好靚仔，咁但係我覺 因為佢比較少有我見到對人好真誠咯，亦都冇乜架子。其實佢個人個魅力比較吸引我嘅。
For me, Leslie, because when I'm very young, I don't have a father figure. For me, Leslie is like a father figure to me. For example, I learn his work, I learn his attitude, I learn everything from him. That's why I've been an actor as well, because of him.
And not just from Hong Kong, they come from all over the region, around the world.
When I fall in love 10 years ago, he arrived, but 2003, he committed suicide. After, I go to Hong Kong twice a year, his birthday and Memorial Day.
And because through Leslie's, I've met a lot of people from all countries, Korea, China, a lot from China, Taiwan, Malaysia, and in the States and Canada also.
不会忘掉，就是一种很特别的感觉啊。对啊，我觉得他是让我觉得，第一次有这种感觉，就是哥哥他虽然离世了，但是我还是永远还是很记得，就是还惦记着他。
The fan groups are quite active and quite dedicated to keeping the memory of Leslie Cheung alive.
咁我覺得你要一路去揾佢嘅嘢，一路去睇佢嘅嘢咧，你係不斷發現有新嘅嘢出到嚟。其實而家喺 Facebook 嘅組群或者網上邊一樣，好多嘅各地歌迷不斷揾翻張國榮寫啲新嘅舊片嘅新嘅片啦，即係以前舊嘅睇唔到，而家揾到出嚟啦，幫佢哋合成一啲新嘅作品啦，唔係惡搞係善搞，將佢嘅作品咧重新剪輯啦，甚至揾到佢喺韓國拍嘅啲朱古力廣告等等，咁會發現咗佢好多嘅嘢係不斷出嚟，仲係有一種特別嘅意思或者味道裏邊，我哋可以詮釋得到嘅。咁如果你問我，即係話佢係一個永遠發掘唔完嘅藝人咯。
Since his death, Leslie has repeatedly won online polls as one of the most popular actors in Asia and one of the top stars in Chinese cinema. His wax figure in the Hong Kong branch of Madame Tussauds was unveiled on the first anniversary of his death and was placed in the room of historical and national heroes. Director Clifton Coe has written a musical tribute to Leslie and two other actors of his generation, Danny Chan and Paul Chung, all three of whom died young.
我仍然相信，如果佢今日仍然在生嘅話，佢仍然係紅館嘅一個 icon， 佢仍然會有令我哋 surprise 嘅電影作品出到嚟，係我哋冇辦法想像嘅張國榮。我仍然覺得佢會係一個好有說服力嘅演技派。我仍然會咁睇，可惜係佢離開咗。
Coe's play taps into a vein of nostalgia for the cantopop era and the golden age of Hong Kong movies. For many, Leslie's suicide marked the end of that time.
It was like the passing of an age. You know, sadly we hear about actors passing for various reasons at various times, and singers. But it really felt like the end of an era. I mean, that's a much used phrase, but Leslie, definitely that was the case.
But in many ways, although he is gone, Leslie Cheung is still very much alive.
I think we can still listen to the records. We can still look at the film. We can memory him for a while, for a long time. I hope. So I hope people still remember him. I hope.
Every cloud has its silver linings. Every cloud has its silver linings。咁呢句説話咧，其實嘅意思就係話，每逢喺黑暗之後咧，一定會見到曙光嘅。所以我覺得每一位朋友咧，遇到有咩困難啊，或者唔開心嘅時候咧，都應該用一個輕鬆啲嘅態度去面對。